Domestic violence cases right here in Metro Detroit taking a very dangerous turn for the worse. Tonight on 7 Up Front, we want to welcome Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy with what's behind the escalating cases. First off, Prosecutor Worthy, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So unfortunately, 2021 is starting off with a disturbing trend in deadly cases. What do you think is sparking these new cases?
Well, we were always afraid at the beginning of the pandemic that because people were at home, that we had many people at home with their abusers, and we expected it to spike. It took a little longer than we thought to spike, but it's really completely and dramatically out of control. Back in 2018, we only had 4 domestic violence homicides. In 2019, 12. In 2020, 24 during the pandemic. And now, so far, from January to mid-March in 2021, we are already at 10. So we're afraid we're going to far exceed the domestic violence homicides this year, as well as far exceeding the domestic violence cases. We already have almost 2,000 referrals to us from Wayne County Police Departments from the domestic violence cases, almost 2,000, and it's just March.
Oh my gosh, listening to those numbers, obviously it's a disturbing trend that looks like it's heading on the rise here. Now, the latest case led to the arrest of Kevin Henry, accused of stabbing his girlfriend. Do you know what is behind this case?
Well, I can't talk about the facts of that case because we still have to go through the court process. But I have to tell you, it's a lot that we've been seeing, a lot of similarities that we've been seeing, frustration, mental illness issues. And I'm not suggesting at all that that case had anything to do with mental illness. I'm not suggesting that at all. But just there's so many, there's kind of so many of these cases are seeing all this stress and the violence, the escalating violence, the repeat offenders, and all the kind of things that we're seeing. So it's very, very scary. But we really believe it has a lot to do with the pandemic. Everybody's in close quarters, and then we have a lot to see.
Prosecutor Worthy, you mentioned the numbers a little bit earlier. Now, there were over 10,000 cases last year alone. Do you think these cases will actually surpass that in 2021?
I do. We're already on track to far exceed not only the domestic violence cases that don't end in death, but as I said before, we're on track to far surpass the 24, 2 a month that we saw last year. It's frightening. And again, there are services and there's help available. And we're going to turn that over to you. Hopefully you can put it on your website, but just a few of them. First Step Services, resources for survivors of domestic violence or sexual assault, and they offer shelter. The crisis line is 734-459-5900, 734-459-5900. Avalon Healing, that used to be Wayne County Safe. They have services as well. And again, the number, the crisis line there is 313-430-8000, 313-430-8000. And there are a number of other services that can be had. And I'm hoping that you'll put that on your website, and it remains on the Wayne County website. There's help available. Please turn to help if you need it. We don't want one of our domestic violence cases to turn into yet another homicide. It is frightening. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I have never seen numbers like these.
These are some frightening numbers for sure. Now, a big question is, why do partners become abusive? What leads them into a domestic violence relationship?
Well, there's a number of things. People are scared to report. We understand that. There's a psychology of domestic violence. Oftentimes, these abusers are caring for them, caring for their children, caring in quotation marks. They're their only source of income. During the pandemic, where one or both partners have lost their jobs. And remember, domestic violence isn't just a male-female or a male-male relationship. It's also familiar. It can also be brother-sister, husband-wife, obviously, relative on relative, people who are not married but have a child in common. And so there are a number of stressors. It's already high stress anyway when you live your life, but during this pandemic, stress levels are at all-time high. In work, in school, the children aren't in school, there's stressors there. We can talk about child abuse too, how the children are at home, and that's not been reported. That's another whole issue. But there's all kinds of stressors that are piled on and piled on and piled on. And we're very concerned because we're about safety in our courts. We haven't had jury trials in almost a full year. So again, we have the old cases, so our victims and our survivors are waiting longer to come into court. And so we're hoping that they will follow through. And so there's all kinds of stresses. The regular stresses of life are heightened when you're in this kind of relationship.
Absolutely. Well, Prosecutor Kim Worthy, thank you so much for your time tonight talking about this very important topic. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Very scary.
Absolutely. And remember, folks, if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, there is help. As Prosecutor Worthy said, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number, 1-800-799-SAFE. Again, that's 1-800-799-7233. We have that number posted right now on our website, WXYZ.com.